media. You haven't been asking me questions about Jerry Jones and the picture that came out, not covering it the same way, and not just specifically the media that was there and the audience, but just saying generally, kind of making a statement that the media isn't giving the Jerry Jones situation the same coverage as Kyrie Irving. And then he walked out, he left. And Michael and I had a really lengthy discussion about it yesterday. Our audience was tapped in. We got a lot of comments, and it's still going, the commentary. So I do actually want you to weigh in a little bit on this, because you said you didn't agree with either me or Michael fully. So I'd love to know your thoughts on the situation.
First off, I was highly disappointed in LeBron James that when he got up and left, he didn't have a little purse or a handbag. Because, that's the meme. Like, when LeBron walks out, he's got to have a little purse or a handbag. He's got to be wearing shorts. So extremely disappointed, just for presentation's sake, on LeBron's behalf.
If you know,
Look,
you know
this is
what
the
that
thing
reference is about.
Exactly. If you're real NBA, then you know that reference. So here's the thing. Here's my general reaction to first the picture, right? And then LeBron James. I'm going to semi-quote a great colleague of mine at the Griot, Michael Harriot, who talked about the fact that we can dispense with any notions that Jerry Jones didn't know what he was doing, right? He knew what he was doing. He knew why he was there. His own coach told him not to be there. Everybody in the community knew, everybody in the community knew the school was being integrated. There were people standing in the way. He was an active participant in preventing kids who look like him from going to school 60 years ago. We know that. That's not in question. I don't care what Jerry Jones has to say about that. So the secondary thing for me is, why do we care? And I say this, I'm not trying to be funny, and I'm not trying to be sort of contrarian here. But, there's no such thing as ethical consumption in capitalism, right? Like, you're buying something that was probably made in an unethical system. And there's no such thing as ethical or racially peaceful consumption of the NFL. I could go through a whole lot of these owners who are just as bad as Donald Trump. I could go through a lot of owners who are just as bad as what we've seen Jerry Jones do 60 years ago or things he's done today. So my question is always, okay, so Jerry Jones was a racist when he was 15. Jerry Jones might be a racist today. I don't know. But is it going to change anything? Is he going to lose his team? Is anyone going to boycott him? Is Dak Prescott going to say anything? Is Zeke going to say anything? No, no, no. And the answer is no, right? Jerry Jones could wake up tomorrow, go on national television with a picture of Colin Kaepernick and tear it in half, right? Like that one singer did back in the 90s, and people are still going to watch the game. So I always feel like if we're going to highlight these issues of the bigotry, sexism, and problematic behavior of players or owners, it has to be attached to a consequence. Otherwise, it's a pointless conversation. So that's the first thing. The second thing, we can unpack that, is LeBron James's comment. LeBron was right. And if the press that was in the room had any ethics or consistency to what they were talking about, there was a simple response. They could have simply said, well, LeBron, Kyrie is a former teammate. He's a basketball player. You're the elder statesman of basketball. That's why we ask you about Kyrie, and we don't necessarily ask you about the NBA, right? The NFL. That could have been a reasonable response. But let's be honest. It's not that. It's the same thing that you see in politics, that for 35 years, any African-American man or woman on television had to answer for any black person's behavior one way or another. If you were black on TV in the early 2000s, were you at the Million Man March? What do you think of Louis Farrakhan? So basically, LeBron James is highlighting the fact that black people are always being told to account for the behavior of other black people, while white folks, oftentimes in media, can engage in terrible behavior and they're seen as individuals and no one else is held accountable.
Absolutely. And also his question was rhetorical, right? Like, it really wasn't about whether the media asked him a question. He didn't want someone to ask him a question. And I agree with you. I think people were getting lost in the discussion of why would he be asked a question about Jerry Jones, or like whether he is or isn't racist? It doesn't matter to me. I don't think it matters. It's not something we're ever going to get him to admit or say on the record. Like, some people are going to believe he is, some people aren't. But when you say there's not going to be any consequences, really we shouldn't be talking about it unless there's a consequence, do you think there is some kind of consequence that's realistic that someone like Jerry Jones should face? And if people want him to face consequences, what could that be?
No, and this is where I bring in, I got to be honest, other people who've commented on this and other public figures who've commented on this, whether that's Stephen A. Smith, whether that's Jason Williams, or other people who've written about it. The fact of the matter is, the only consequence that Jerry Jones potentially faces is someone asked him a question. He's been asked a question and he answered it. That's it. That is the only consequence he's facing. Now you have commentators like Smith who will come forward and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he's going through." No, all he's being done is answering a question. I mean, obviously, look, if you want to put on the armor of God and the bulletproof vest of Stephen from Django and jump out in front of these owners whenever you want to, feel free to do so, right? But for the most part, most of us in media understand that a billionaire owner simply being asked a question about his behavior isn't a consequence. The league isn't going to make him face any consequences, right? I mean, Dan Snyder still got his team. Jim Irsay still has his team, and those are the stories that we know about. So no one's going to face any consequences.
They're not going to, but is there something that we can do to make them face a consequence? And when I say we, I mean, is there something the media can do? Is there something the people can, is there something that we can force the hand so there is some consequence that he faces?
The only thing that can actually be done is if somebody wanted to ask Jerry Jones a question on a regular basis, not about what he did in a black and white sepia colored photo, right, from 70 years ago. You would ask him about what he's doing now. But we already know the answer to what he's done now. We already know it's one of the few teams in the league to never have an African-American head coach. We already know that it's a family-run business that hasn't had a number of prominent African-American executives despite having very prominent Hall of Fame players who have been on and off of that team. We don't even, I mean, Jerry Jones has never even pretended he's going to hire Dion, right? And Dion is like a fantastic coach. So I don't see, you know, you can force pressure on people, but the only thing that matters to individuals like Jerry Jones and people at that level of wealth is if you either affect their money or their ownership. And those are things that the press itself cannot necessarily affect. The fans can, the league can, but again, if we have a league where on Saturday a guy who was credibly accused by over 20-something women of sexual assault is about to start for an NFL franchise and he's not been stopped, you really think people are going to put pressure on a team owner of one of the most popular teams in America for something that he did 70 years ago, whose behavior has more or less probably continued for the last 60 or 70 years? I say next to nil. I don't, like we could try, but I don't see it going anywhere. And that's one of the things that I think I'm more bothered by the disingenuous way in which we have some of these conversations, rather than acknowledging the cognitive dissonance that we can enjoy the performance on the field while also acknowledging, just like we do with FIFA, that the organization that puts that product on the field is incredibly problematic and always has been and probably always will be.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a point, and we had Clarence Hill Jr. on the show earlier this week, and he was like, and he said that Jerry Jones is a capitalist. And I thought that was interesting. But I don't think capitalism and racism are mutually exclusive. And so I think they sort of go hand in hand. But I think so. But
I mean,
yeah.
they are. They're absolutely connected. I mean, this is what I was saying. Like, it's very funny. Americans can watch. You can watch all sorts of analysis of what's wrong with FIFA. We can say, oh my gosh, look at FIFA. They're corrupt. They're terrible. People it's not like Americans don't have the ability to understand the problematic things about NFL owners and how the league operates. We just don't care because we like the entertainment. And I think that sometimes it's sort of that comment, as you mentioned, like, well, he's a capitalist. Yeah, capitalism, it's not just that these things aren't mutually exclusive. You can't have capitalism without racism. You can't, because it's based on extracting labor from people who you don't see as being worthy of being able to fully appreciate the benefits. I don't want to preach, okay? But it's based on extracting labor from people who you don't think deserve to have the full benefits of that labor, which is exactly what most professional sports is. So why are we shocked by this? I mean, to say he's a capitalist is the same thing as saying, hey, the sun shines every day. The entire league is based on taking people who have been systematically oppressed and kept out of the economic system and only used for their bodily labor to make someone else rich. We enjoy it, but we can't pretend that that's not how it's made. If these leagues were based ethically, then people would be getting paid in college and be paid in high school and wouldn't go to segregated elementary schools, which is what leads them to this system anyway. Come on, y'all. I just think Jerry Jones is a result of a system and not necessarily the first place that we should be criticizing that system.
Okay. Well, there's nothing wrong with taking us to church on a Friday and not Sunday, but we are here to preach. We're here to talk about things. So you and I have so much more that we need to get into. But before we leave the NFL, I mean, what do you think? I mean, this story is probably just LeBron sort of resurfaced it, but so much happened yesterday that we are going to get into that. It's kind of not even the top news story anymore, but what do you think is going to come of it? Like his sort of challenge to the media. Do you think there will be any more stories, anything else that will come up? Do you expect that we'll hear any more from Jerry Jones? Dak had a response. Did you see it? Did you see his response?
Yeah. Well, here's what I think, honestly, Nat. It's not going to happen with Jerry Jones. But we had an instance of this, was it 4 or 5 years ago in Virginia, where you had the governor at the time, Northam, get caught with a picture of him in blackface, right? Back in the early 80s. He's like, oh, I don't have any more of those. And then there's like 3 more. And then other people with blackface. I think there's probably an entrepreneurial reporter out there right now looking for this kind of information about other owners. Now, that may turn into a story. I don't think this ends as far as looking at the past and the backgrounds of some of these ownership groups. I do think it ends with Jerry Jones because the man is essentially Teflon. And like I said, unless there's a consequence, and unless he says something egregious like, that's right, I'm glad I kept the black people from attending that in high school, which is something I doubt he agrees with today, I don't see it. The story's not going to continue with him. We'll continue with other owners.
Yeah, Dak's comments, he, mentioned that he's biracial and he, extends grace, tries to extend grace. But he also, talked about kind of looking at people's actions and like what they do now. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's why it's so funny to me, the grace that I see some wanting to extend Jerry Jones, because it's like, have you looked at his actions? Did you see his response to Cap? Do you see the political campaigns he's donated to? I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing, people? Like, he was a big supporter of Trump. So, it's like, I just don't understand this grace that people want to extend him. But we've talked about this enough. So I don't have any more to say on Jerry Jones. I don't personally.
I'll say this quick, Nat. It ain't grace. It's called a paycheck, right? Dak works for the guy. I don't expect anybody to have full-throated criticism for the person who signs their checks. Just like when the Iranian journalist asked Taylor, who's the captain of the U.S. state team, hey, what do you think about racist America? He works for America. He ain't gonna say nothing critical. I don't expect anything enlightened from Dak Prescott or anybody who's part of the extended La Mafia Cowboys family, because they still owe their power, their credibility, their access to the screen by having access to that team. So you're not going to hear no real criticism from anybody who's ever worn that star.
Excellent point. It's like, okay, I don't expect more from Dak because like he works for him, but excellent point. Thanks for pointing that out. Dr. Jason, one of my faves. Today you're being good. I like that. All right, we're going to go to break and come back and talk about some more.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.